Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Let me start off with a quotation, if I can, by Teddy Roosevelt, who said, "Far better to dare mighty things, to achieve glorious triumphs, though checkered with failure, than to sit with those poor and timid souls who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in that great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat." Well, I come to you today as a gentleman who has achieved glorious things and who has suffered setbacks. And many times, most candidates would be very happy to have their name on the newspaper covers of Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, the Worcester Telegram, I hold here the Milford Daily News, talking about an issue that occurred in my life back in the 1990s and was resolved in the year 2000. And I come to tell you, probably for the first time in a large public audience, though I've told smaller audiences, that I have filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And so I put that out there, and I'm going to kind of sort of tell my story backwards here, because I tell you, normally, that I'm your neighbor. And I'm your neighbor not because I live next door to you, but I'm your neighbor because I value the same things you value. That I walk the sidelines with our kids the same way you do. That I value the American dream the way you do. And I had a dream. I had a dream in the early 1990s to have my own business. And I pursued that dream. And it worked out pretty well for a couple of years. And then after a couple of years, it didn't work out so well. And I take full responsibility for that. I couldn't scale the business big enough and fast enough to make the numbers work. And when it became obvious to me that things were not going to go well, I took care of my people. I co-signed those loans. And I took business down step by step, and I took care of my employees. I made sure that they had jobs. I shorted my paycheck to make sure that they were taken care of. And when the end of the day came to dissolve that business, I suffered the consequences of a bankruptcy. And I paid that price. And that is the consequence of the American dream. You take big risks, you get big rewards. You take big risks and you fail, you suffer those consequences. And I'm here to tell you, as a man, I suffered those consequences. And I stand before you today as a candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. And it was a great introduction, thank you. I started my career at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. I became a naval officer and entered the U.S. Navy and became a Navy pilot. I flew in the Western Pacific during the Cold War. I flew helicopters out there. I chased submarines around the Pacific on multiple deployments in the Sea of Japan, the Philippine Seas, and lots of other areas. I came back and worked in the Pentagon with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I worked in Command, Control, and Communications Directorate. I worked with the Worldwide Military Command and Control System. That's a lot of alphabet soup. But I did some good work there. I didn't boil the ocean, I didn't set the Earth off its axis, but I believe I did good work while I was there. I had an opportunity to move into large business, aerospace and defense, and sales and marketing positions, and I did so. And I had progressively responsible positions as I did that. And I had this opportunity, I had this dream, as I talked about, to run my own business. And I learned a lot from that business, believe me. I learned how to take care of people. I learned additionally how to travel throughout the world. I had opportunities to meet with people, to work on business deals that were of great import. I learned, most importantly, the lessons of fiscal management, fiscal responsibility, inventory control, good contract procedures, and the role of having a good accountant. Look, it sounds crazy, but I think there are people out there right now who know how tough it is to make a paycheck stretch. I bet you there are people in this audience right now who are wondering how to make the next mortgage payment, wondering where that next job is going to come from, wondering how you're going to send your kids to school, wondering if you can make that tuition payment. Well, let me tell you, I know what that pit in the stomach feels like. I got it right now, reading these stories about me and my family. I've got it right now, and I know how it feels. It's fresh in my stomach. The bile is still raising in my throat. But there's a good news about this. The good news is Richard Neal is paying attention, For the first time maybe in 22 years, certainly the first time in 14 years, he is paying attention to this race. He is concerned that he, who has never held a job other than came from the government, who's never earned a paycheck that hasn't come from the government, may be out of a job come November. This is serious stuff. We have got an opportunity to take out a Pelosi, Obama Democrat. One who has failed to serve this district, one who has failed to be responsive to you, one who probably hasn't answered your emails, who probably hasn't answered your telephone calls, and probably hasn't answered your letters. How do I know that? He hasn't answered mine, right? I'm still a scoutmaster in Hopedale. I was out doing scoutmasterly things this morning, as a matter of fact, at the Hopedale Day in the Park, and we did a 9/11 remembrance ceremony. And I was talking to some of the boys that I helped usher through their citizenship in the nation, merit badges. Reminded me that I've done that 4 or 5 times, and we've written letters as a result of that merit badge to Richard Neal's office. The boys did. The boys who are 15, 16, 17 years old, who in a couple of years are going to be out defending our country on the pointy edge of the sword, over in Afghanistan, over in Iraq, over in South Korea, in places where they go in harm's way. And our elected official chose to ignore them. He must be repealed. Richard Neal needs to leave Congress. And you have a choice this year. You have a choice that you haven't had in 14 years. There hasn't been an opponent against Richard Neal, and now this year he's got 2. I'm asking you for your vote. I'm asking you for your vote in the Republican primary on Tuesday, and I ask again for it in November 2nd in the general election. Because this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. For my lifetime, I'm certain it is. And I said to you, I'm your neighbor, because I believe in the things you believe in. I value the things that you value. I've walked in your shoes. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't pass that along to my children either. We've worked hard. We've had great success, and as I mentioned to you, we've had some failure. But from that failure we've learned, and I've learned. And it's made the victory that much more sweet. This is our Congress. This is our seat, the people's seat. 435 seats are out there. We own this one. I'm asking you to help us fight to take it back. And finally, this is our time. Again, there is no more important time in our history than right now to stop the slide towards socialism that we're seeing. We must do this now. We cannot wait to 2012. I'm asking you to get out and do what you can for any candidate you choose to support. I am just an ordinary guy who's lived an extraordinary life. And I'm asking you for the opportunity to represent you in Washington. You send me to Washington, and I will take you with me. Thank you very much, and may God bless America.